In terms of North London, I want to have a little chat about North London because the Eze situation, one of the stories that you broke on the football terrace was Arsenal's interest in him. I remember that many weeks ago, and it was true and it was genuine. There's now reports have kind of cooled that interest somewhat. Spurs now seemingly leading the race. What's the latest in terms of Eze and his future in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think Eberechi Eze is going to move between now and the end of the window, even though obviously when the release clause expires, I think today actually, because it was valid only until the beginning of the Premier League season. So Crystal Palace are in a position where if nobody triggers it, they can dig in a little bit. And I know there are some suggestions at the Palace end that they don't want to lose Eze and Gay in the same window, but I think both could still go. Obviously, one is down to the player, as we discussed earlier, and whether he wants to move. The other is really all about if you meet Crystal Palace's valuation. I am told pretty clearly that Tottenham want to move fast to avoid an Arsenal surprise, but they also want to try and do something under the release clause number. And now we have to understand when the release clause 60 million plus 8 million in add-ons disappears, if there is a scenario that emerges where Palace say with no release clause, you can engage 55, 60, or if they say even in the absence of the release clause, it's the same everything. It's the same structure. It's the same number. Otherwise, you're not going to get a deal. So that's the thing I think that Tottenham and even Arsenal to an extent are trying to understand. When this release clause disappears and Palace can't point to it anymore, is that a positive because we can come in under? Or alternatively, are they still going to say it's gone, but de facto it's still there and it's the same price? Otherwise, we're just not going to engage. And at 68 package, I think there are reservations by both Spurs, and if they move Arsenal, Arsenal's reservations are also internal because they like the idea of giving Ethan Nwaneri opportunities at number 10. But from Tottenham's point of view, they're thinking we paid 55 million for Mohamed Kudus. So if we're going to bid, it's going to be in that 55 to 60 million ballpark, which is not far off the release clause, but it is around 5 or 10 minutes under it. Million even, not minutes under it. I'm saying minutes because I've got to go soon and I'm looking at the clock. So I think that's kind of where we stand. I'm expecting Spurs to make a move. I'm expecting Spurs to try and go quite quick on this one within the bounds, obviously, of only a few days left of the window to make sure that maybe they're the only suitor at the table. And they're trying to understand right now first whether or not Steve Parish is willing to do something at less than 68. And if he is, then I expect Tottenham to move very fast. And then a lot of people ask me, well, doesn't he want Arsenal? I think players don't think like that. Eze met with Mikel Arteta and Andrea Berta about a month ago. When they spoke, Eze was very clear. He likes the idea of Arsenal, but Tottenham were not there because they were trying to get Gibbs White done. They didn't know that James Maddison was going to do his ACL, and Tottenham's appreciation for Eze is long-standing. Now they're back at the table and they realize Eze is a priority along with Savinho because they're two separate signings. And that's kind of where we're at the moment, that the money for Savinho is difficult, although I'm told a 70 million bid was not put in, contrary to some suggestions. So there's only been one verbal bid so far, and there hasn't been a second rejected bid of 70 million. Both City and Tottenham deny some of the stories from last night, but the price there is difficult. With Eze, I think he's open to Spurs. I think he wants to stay in London. He wants to play Champions League football. So it's not Arsenal or Spurs. It's a yes to both projects. And it's probably just a case of which one actually comes forwards with a formal bid. And that's why Spurs want to be fast and try and agree something with Crystal Palace, because they know if they do that and then Arsenal don't respond, that Eze is not going to delay and wait. He's going to say yes to Spurs as well.
It makes perfect sense. Has there been a bid from Spurs for Savinho? There's been some reports that a 70 million, I think, euro bid has been rejected. What's your latest understanding of their pursuit of the Manchester City winger?
Yeah, as I just sort of said a minute ago, there has been no bid, I'm told, in the last 24 hours to the tune of 70 million euros, but there have been verbal talks. They've been framed more around 50 million euros. I think Man City neither want to sell nor would accept anywhere close to 50 million euros. You're talking 60, if not 70 million in terms of the number that might change Man City's mind. And I think Man City aren't just looking at this financially. They're basically going, if we let him go, it has to be at that higher number. And we have to know that Rodrigo is prepared to join and is also affordable. So there's kind of a domino effect. It's the same domino effect with Ederson, that Man City want to keep Ederson, much like Savinho. But if they let Ederson go, then they need to know that Donnarumma can be lined up and brought in very quickly because time is running out in the window. So I think both Ederson and Savinho are tied to price, but also tied to the fact that those replacements need to be lined up. And at the right price, if Ederson wants to go and Donnarumma's available, that might be sanctioned. But City's preference is just to keep Ederson. And at the right price, Savinho might be sanctioned, but Rodrigo also has to be lined up as well. So Tottenham haven't given up. They want Eze and Savinho, but I'm told Eze club to club will still be simpler than Savinho club to club.
Makes perfect sense. Ben, I know you've got to shoot a hard stop at past, so we won't ask you any more questions just because of that. I'm going to say live people for a little bit. We're going to go through some more of your comments and stuff like that. But Ben, always a pleasure, mate, to sit here and speak football.
Always a pleasure. Keep up the good work, my friends.
Lovely, mate.
Have a good
Take care,
weekend,
mate.
everyone.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Teams for the first Premier League weekends of the season.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you very much indeed. Viewers, get that like button smashed. Make sure you are subscribing to the show. And thank you, Luke Skywalker here with a comment. Thank you for encouraging everybody to get that like button hit for us as well. Adam here with a super chat that came a little bit earlier. It says, is Belieber not happening? Look, the breakdown from Ben was very concise. You can go back in the video and watch it. But what he has essentially said is it's always been hard and difficult, and that hasn't changed. There's a lot of reports that if United meet the asking price, they'll accept. Ben has stated that that could be true. But there's also a world where Brighton just reject every single offer and bid that comes in. This isn't a case of Man United not doing enough. United are, by the way, not going to bid £250 million for him and just go crazy. They're still going to want to bid in and around valuation, even if it's a record bid, and they're sensible to do that. But there are still club-to-club talks going on. The player is keen on the move. United reportedly will submit some type of bid. But the Manchester Evening News are also right. And Ben Jacobs has told us this from the start. And it's only been going on for a week, this deal, by the way. But that's that United, even if they can't get the deal done now, even if they can't get the deal over the line, a lot of this, Adam, is about creating the, doing the groundwork for the summer. And if United say, well, look, if Man United bid 110 million all in now, and they say no, I'm not disappointed in Manchester United if Brighton's stance is there is no asking price, there is nothing we're going to accept this summer. We'll talk about it next year. There's nothing Manchester United can do about it. Jacob here says Romano tweeted his Nkunku tweet seems done. Well, he says it's on. On doesn't mean done, but Ben Jacobs put out an update a little bit before that when it comes to Christopher Nkunku, and they said that Bayern opened talks with Chelsea for Christopher Nkunku, and that seems like a deal that could happen for Chelsea and could be a really important deal for Chelsea Football Club moving forward. John here says there isn't an